My knuckles went white against the steering wheel as I stared at the bank statement on my phone screen. The savings account I'd built over 5 years was gone. Not just empty, gone. The parking garage around me seemed to compress inward as I scrolled through transaction after transaction, each withdrawal authorized by someone with access I'd never given. The taste of copper filled my mouth. Outside my car window, rain pelted the concrete floor of the parking garage where I sat after another long day at my admin job. I checked my account like I did every Friday, a small ritual that usually brought comfort. Today, it brought devastation. My name is Ava. I'm 23 and I work as a junior administrator in the city. This is the story of how I learned that family doesn't always protect the people who sacrifice the most. Growing up, I was the responsible one, while my younger brother Noah got praise for potential. I got practical gifts and the expectation that I wouldn't need much. I started working at 16, first filing papers after school, then weekend cafe shifts. Every dollar I saved went into an account my father promised to help me manage for my future. By the time I moved out at 21, that account was supposed to be my safety net. Rent, stability, maybe a used car one day. Small dreams built on steady work. I trusted my parents to protect what I'd earned. That trust died in a parking garage on a rainy Friday evening. The first withdrawal was 3 months ago, small enough that I might have missed it if I wasn't so careful with my budget. Then, larger amounts spaced out strategically. Someone had been slowly draining years of my life, hoping I wouldn't notice. Until it was too late. My phone buzzed. A text from Noah with a photo of his new laptop. Dad said it was time I had something decent for class. The connection hit me like ice water. 20 minutes later, I pulled into my parents' driveway, my hands still shaking from the revelation. Mom was humming in the kitchen when I walked in. The smell of her Friday night roast filling the air. Noah sprawled on the couch with his expensive new laptop, fingers dancing across keys that cost more than I made in 2 weeks. Nice laptop, I said carefully. He didn't look up. Yeah, Dad said it was an investment in my future. His voice carried that entitled tone I'd grown too familiar with. What kind of classes? Extra programs, supplies, gear. They said I needed better equipment to compete. He shrugged like expensive things appeared in his life naturally. Mom slid vegetables into a pot. Ava, be supportive. He's at an important age. I worked after school when I was his age, I said quietly. She waved the thought away. That was your choice, and you turned out fine. Later, when Mom went upstairs and Noah disappeared into his room, Dad walked into the kitchen. He moved with the casual confidence of someone who'd never had to worry about money disappearing from his accounts. Dad, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We need to talk about my savings account. He didn't even pretend. Confusion. What about it? There's money missing. A lot of it. We used it, he said matter-of-factly. No one needs opportunities. Things you didn't need at his age. The words hit me like a physical blow. I didn't need opportunities. You're already working. You're stable. Noah's future requires more support. He said it like he was explaining weather patterns, cold and logical. That's when something inside me shifted. The fear I'd carried my whole life of being a burden of asking for too much, transformed into something sharper. Anger. Purpose. You took my money. Without asking. We're your parents. We know what's best for this family. I stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time. This wasn't love. This wasn't protection. This was financial manipulation wrapped in the language of family duty. That night, I called Grandpa. He lived on the edge of the city in a quiet neighborhood with tall trees and front porches that creaked in the wind. An hour later, I arrived at his house, and he opened his door before I could finish knocking, taking one look at my face and stepping aside. What happened? I laid it all out. The missing savings, Dad's casual confession, the pattern of favoritism that had shaped my entire life. Grandpa listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with each detail. "They're counting on you staying quiet," he said. "Finally. Like you always have." "Not anymore." We spent the next hour documenting everything. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every missing dollar. Grandpa's mind was still sharp despite his age, and he understood something I was only beginning to grasp. "This isn't just unfair," he said. "It's financial mistreatment." The word hung between us. Mistreatment. I'd never thought of it that way, but the truth settled in my chest like lead. "You need legal documentation," he continued. "And you need to be prepared for them to fight back." When I drove home that night, the city looked different. Less like a place where I was struggling to survive, more like a place where I was learning to fight. The following Sunday, Mom called about family dinner. She always hosted when Grandpa visited, turning our dysfunction into performance art. I arrived exactly on time. A manila folder tucked in my bag and my heartbeat steady. For the first time in weeks, the atmosphere felt wrong the moment I walked in. Mom moved too quickly, adjusting plates that didn't need adjusting. Noah sulked in the corner, scrolling his phone like he was trying to disappear. Dad stood near the kitchen doorway, hands in his pockets, wearing the expression of someone who thought he still controlled the narrative. Grandpa sat at the dining table, his cane resting beside his chair, eyes sharper than ever. When he looked at me, something in my chest steadied. When we gathered around the table for dinner, the forced normally began. Small talk, clinking silverware, the smell of roasted chicken mixing with Mom's citrus cleaner. But the air felt stretched, thin, ready to tear. Then Dad said it. No pause, no warning. "We spent your savings on someone better." The room collapsed into silence. Not the kind that echoes, but the kind that presses down on everything until breathing becomes work. I felt Grandpa's gaze move from me to Dad, slow and heavy. Noah froze mid-bite. Mom set her fork down too fast, metal clattering against porcelain. "Better than me?" I asked. Dad didn't blink. "Your brother needed support. You didn't." It's simple. Simple. That word shouldn't be used to justify deception. "That money was mine," I said. "All of it. I worked for it." "You'll be fine," he said, brushing the air like she shooing away a fly. "You're responsible. Strong. No one needs more guidance." Grandpa pushed back his chair, the scraping sound cutting through the room like breaking glass. He stood slowly but with a presence that filled every corner. "Name that someone," he said, voice low and steady. "Now." Dad opened his mouth, but what came out wasn't confidence. It was panic disguised as irritation. Dad, this isn't your business. We handled things the way we saw fit. That's clear, Grandpa said. Too clear. His gaze flicked to me. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. My hands didn't shake this time. Every page felt like evidence, not shame. I brought something, I said. Dad's jaw tightened. Ava. I laid the papers on the table. Bank statements, withdrawal records, transaction dates lined up like a confession. Every theft documented in black and white. Mom's breath caught. Where did you get all that? From the account. You thought I'd never check carefully, I said calmly. Noah leaned forward, confusion spreading across his face. Wait, this came from her account. You needed those classes, Dad snapped. Don't start acting ungrateful. I didn't ask you to take her money. Noah shot back, his voice cracking. Why would you even do that? Because you deserved it, Dad said sharply. Ava doesn't need expensive things. She manages on her own. She always has. Grandpa slammed his palm on the table. Not hard, but with enough force to silence every voice instantly. That does not make her less deserving, he said. It makes her taken advantage of. Dad's face flushed. Dad, you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. Grandpa's voice could have frozen water. You took her savings without permission. You put her future at risk so you could keep pretending Noah is helpless. Mom whispered. We were trying to support him. At her expense, Grandpa asked, turning his eyes back to me. Ava, speak plainly. What do you want to happen now? It was the first time anyone in that house had ever asked me that question. I breathed in slowly. I want my savings returned, every dollar, and I want a written apology acknowledging what you did. Dad shook his head. You're overreacting. You have a job you'll replace. Grandpa cut him off. She won't replace what you stole. You will. Dad's expression shifted from anger to fear. Real flickering fear. We don't have that. Kind of. Then you'll adjust, Grandpa said. Sell something, cut expenses. Figure it out. Because if Ava files this as financial mistreatment, the consequences will be significant. The silence that followed was heavy, unavoidable. Finally, Noah spoke, his voice quiet. Ava, I'm sorry. I didn't. No. It didn't fix anything, but it mattered that he said it. Dad sank into his chair like the air had been punched out of him. Fine, he said through clenched teeth. We'll return it. All of it. And the apology? I asked. He swallowed. I'll write it tonight. Grandpa nodded. Once satisfied. Good. Then this family might still have a chance. I stood, gathering my folder and walking toward the front door. I'm going home. No one tried to stop me. For the first time in my life, leaving didn't feel like running away. It felt like stepping into the life I finally chose. The next few weeks moved quietly, like the aftermath of a long storm. My parents returned the money in tense installments over 6 weeks, each transfer arriving without message or acknowledgement, just numbers, moving from one account to another, undoing a deception they never should have committed. Dad's written apology arrived in my mailbox the following Tuesday. 2 pages acknowledging what he'd taken and promising it would never happen again. Grandpa checked in often, sometimes with phone calls, sometimes with groceries I didn't need, but accepted anyway. He never lectured, never pushed. He just made sure I knew I wasn't walking through the aftermath alone. Noah kept his distance at first. Then one afternoon, he showed up at my door, hands shoved deep in his pockets. "I'm trying to do better," he said. Simply. "I got a part-time job. I want to pay for my own things from now on." For the first time, I believed him. Life in my small apartment felt different. Now, lighter. I organized my files, built a new budget, and took small steps toward the future I thought I'd lost. The fear was gone. What happened at that dinner didn't fix my family, didn't erase years of imbalance, but it gave me something I'd never had before. A boundary they finally had to see. I still visit my parents sometimes, maybe once every few months now instead of every weekend. Our relationship exists on my terms with clear limits they've learned to respect. Noah and I text regularly and he's kept his word about supporting himself. Mom sends occasional cards but rarely calls, and Dad maintains a careful distance that works for both of us. Maybe they're not supposed to be the same. A boundary isn't a wall. It's a line that reminds you where you end and other people's expectations begin. For the first time in my life, they stopped crossing mine. I'm building a future on my own terms now. One they don't get to rewrite or borrow from. And if you've ever had to stand up to the people who were meant to protect you, I hope you know this. You're not wrong for wanting respect. You're not selfish for protecting what you've earned. You're not alone. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.